everyone. Today's Tuesday, March 11th, 25, and we will call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Hamilton, would you lead us in prayer?
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we stop now and pause to honor your greatness. Father, to recognize that you are the Father of peace. Father, you're the Father of love. And Father, you ask us to lead your people with dignity and respect. Father, I ask that anything that's not pleasing in your sight in our hearts, we ask that you change it. But you give us your wisdom to make this meeting a fruitful and productive meeting for all that are here. And for Father, I ask that you give us your grace and your mercy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Okay, up first we got the adoption of the minutes, the regular meeting minutes of February 11th, 25. Are there any changes, Mr. Cease?
None that have been brought to staff unless council has any tonight.
Any discussion from council? Anybody want to change anything? So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Up next, we have the minutes from the Special Joint Town Council and Law Enforcement Citizens Advisory Committee that was on February 13th, 25. Are there any changes to that, Mr. Cease?
None that staff received.
Anything from council? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Next, we have the presentation, celebrations, and recognitions. Up first is Beaufort County School District Character Student of the Month. I can't see. So we're here today to recognize Ella Gorley. She's a fourth grader from Red Cedar Elementary School, and her character trait is perseverance. And she's not here, I take it?
Yeah, she wasn't able to attend, but we've got some things to say about her. Here's her
Okay.
teacher, Miss Frieden,
Okay,
and I am the school counselor at Red Cedar.
great. Whichever one of you want to go first, tell us about Ella.
Well, I bet Ella's watching tonight with the live feed, and we want to congratulate her, and we're so proud of her. This is what her teacher said about her. When asked to choose a student who embodies perseverance, our grade level choice came quickly. This person not only had to deal with learning the expectations of a new teacher and solving complicated math problems like her peers, but she also faced personal challenges that make the days even more difficult. A cancer diagnosis is not anything someone can prepare you for, but our choice for the trait of perseverance, Ella Gorley, faced that diagnosis head on with a smile on her face and her positive spirit. COVID taught us that learning from home can be trying, but Ella has been committed to doing her best and has been able to keep up with her in-person peers in order to not allow herself to fall behind due to her illness. At no point has she complained about having to complete assignments or made excuses, despite having valid reasons to do so, for why something wasn't completed. Ella has risen above her challenges and had persevered throughout her treatments. She is an inspiration and an excellent role model for peers as well as adults by demonstrating many positive character traits, and especially perseverance.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything? Not Ella?
Ella's an example for everyone. When we talk to children about rising above some sort of problem that they have, which is nearly always so incredibly small compared to what Ella is doing, they take it to heart. It helps. She's a silent usually role model.
Well, I've got this for her. I want to get pictures for her.
Okay, sure.
Take it back to her. Women always.
Well, you know, because we're the movers and shakers, that's why.
I'm used to it.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, here. This is a little goodie bag. Oh, and here's some more stuff in the goodie bag too.
Perfect. And thanks so much. for
Thank you.
everything else.
Thank you. Charlotte is here tonight.
Who? Oh,
Charlotte?
shouldn't she? Charlotte, up next is the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Miss Charlotte?
No, this is
Disability Awareness Month is an opportunity to educate the public about the challenges faced by individuals with disabilities and to promote their rights and well-being. The town of Bluffton is proud to support the Special Olympic Area 8 Spring Games. This event celebrates the abilities and achievements of athletes with disabilities. I proclaim March as Disability Awareness Month. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You want to say something, or anybody want to say when the event is?
Okay.
I want to say thank you to the town of Bluffton for supporting Special Olympics. We will be having our spring games at May River High School on March 20th at 10 a.m. Schools from all over Beaufort County, Jasper County will be getting together. Everyone's invited to come out and support our athletes. Thank you to Mayor Toomer for coming out and making opening remarks and lighting the Olympic torch. 2 years ago, I competed in the World Games in Berlin against athletes from all over the world. I was fortunate enough to win medals in women kayaking. The town of Bluffton supported me and gave me the key to the town. It's a wonderful celebration when I came home. Thank you again for everything that you do to help people with disabilities.
Very welcome. Can we get a picture? Sure. Come on.
All right, ready? I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll see you out there again this year.
Yes.
Oh, you want to?
No, I'm just confused. I was here to get a proclamation for Beaufort County Disabilities and Special Needs Board.
Is that different?
Is that different?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hold on. We got time. That's all I got is this, so I don't know. See, it's on our agenda, isn't it?
So while she's going to get that one, if you want to go ahead, we have the Federation of Women's Clubs as well. You can do that one, and then we can do the presentation of the other one. when she gets back. Right here, that one was next on the agenda anyway.
Do we have anyone here for this? Don't see them. Oh, I guess we do. Hi, how are you? This is General Federation of Women's Clubs, Women's League of the Low Country, 10th anniversary. We wish to recognize the Women's League for Low Country on the 10th anniversary of their chartering. The club is dedicated to community improvement by enhancing the lives of others through volunteer service. The club holds fundraisers which benefits organizations like Hopeful Horizons, St. Jude's, and Tunnel to Towers, to name a few. Congratulations to all of you. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for recognizing our club for the 10th anniversary. General Federation Women's Club is a national organization. It's been around since 1864. Eleanor Roosevelt was a member. The Low Country chapter, as you heard, is celebrating its 10th year. We're very proud of all the things that we've accomplished. Closer to your heart would be Red Cedar Elementary, where we tutor, and we also were a part of helping them get there into the Guinness Book of Records with those cereal box collections, if you remember that. And we're also, our whole whole being is mission and service to others. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. We'll see you later.
Is she coming up to talk, Marcia?
Carrie's on her way shortly. Carrie's on her way.
Okay, so we'll just fit it in right here.
Mr. McCracken.
Okay. Up next, we have,
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. That's it. All right.
are we good now?
I'm sure.
So this is short.
One that was already up here, the lady right there.
I'm back.
She just needs she needs a photo with the presentation.
You want to tell everybody what this
Yes,
is about?
I'm from my name is Lynn Russo, I'm a Bluffton resident, but I'm also on the Beaufort County Advisory Board for Disabilities and Special Needs. And every year, March is Disabilities Awareness Month, and we always pick up proclamations from all of our wonderful municipalities that recognize it. But I also want to state that I think a lot of people aren't aware of the Disabilities Board or DSN, the Special Needs Department for Beaufort County, and what they do for people with autism and Down syndrome, and they train them and they teach them to get out in the world. And they just make people notice people who are sometimes overlooked. So I thank you for recognizing this.
Well, thank you for
Sincerely.
what you do.
Charlotte, you want to get a picture by yourself? And
I don't know what's going on here.
I don't either, believe me.
Shuffle. So you want to get-
No, if you want to be by yourself, and I'll take one with me, and you can take one along with the mayor.
Step up.
Okay, that way, because we're sort of crossing purposes here.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
I got it. Thank
It's
you.
all good stuff.
All right, thank you. And you can delete the other one. Thank you, everybody.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's all good. Up next, we have Beaufort County Military Enhancement Committee. Mr. Mayor Emmett McCracken. Colonel, Mayor, many titles, sir.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, I appreciate this opportunity to talk a little bit about the Military Enhancement Committee. You made this appointment in June of 2023. I realize coming up here, this is the first time I've had the opportunity to present to council other than public comment, where you are limited to 3 minutes. In the absence of that 3-minute constraint, I suspect I'll be finished somewhere around 7:30. Let's go back to the first slide, please. Can we do this reverse? Thank you. What we're dealing here with, as you all are well aware, is the Marine Corps Air Station, the Paris Island Recruit Depot, and the Navy Hospital. Let me take one break. Is anybody here on the Military Enhancement Committee? Am I flying along? Okay, good. I wanted to recognize if you were here. But anyway, those are we are all familiar with. Next slide. The what we can take from this slide are two words: sustain and enhance. The mission of the Military Enhancement Committee we can trace its mission back to the mid and late 1990s. When you recall, we have the BRAC, the Base Realignment and Closure Act. And the Marine Corps Air Station and Parris Island were under scrutiny, as were all the military bases at that time, for closure or reduction in strength or change of mission. But fortunately for the county and the whole community, that they survived that scrutiny, and they still do. But the lesson we took from that is we cannot take those facilities for granted, because as we're well aware, anyone can, at any particular point in time, someone can come in and begin to question why we have F-35s in Beaufort and why we train Marines in Beaufort. And it's well to underscore the impact of the presence of those bases: $2.5 billion annually for the economic impact for the county, 10,000 service members, and some 21,000 employees whose jobs can be traced directly or indirectly to the presence of the bases. Next slide. The structure is noted on this slide. As I mentioned, you appointed that position in June of 2023. I believe, I'm not certain, but I believe in the next few months you're going to be asked to reaffirm that position, because it is limited to a certain number of years. So you'll have your choice of either sending me back to Beaufort or sending someone else, however you elect to do that. Next slide. The general functions, what we emphasize here is the linkage with the community. We recently had a meeting with the Commanding General of Parris Island and briefed him, and he shared some of his thoughts on Parris Island and the importance of the presence of Parris Island in Beaufort County. And earlier had a briefing early last year, had a briefing from the Marine Corps Air Station as to their mission. Down here, we hear and sometimes see F-35s, and we think that sometimes we are remote to what's going on in the northern part of the county in terms of things military, but there's some points to emphasize. Dr. Rodriguez, the superintendent of education, indicated to me there are 390 military dependents in Bluffton area schools, not counting Hilton Head and Bluffton area schools, 390 military dependents and representing 230 military households. Now, they can be households that the service member is stationed in Marine Corps Air Station or stationed in Parris Island, or it can be a family that has elected to stay in the Bluffton area while the service member is in the Mediterranean or in the Pacific somewhere. But I was surprised by the number. I didn't realize it was that high. And also something that will relate a little bit later on another slide, but according to the Beaufort County Veterans Affairs, we have 27,000 veterans in Beaufort County and 4,000 retirees, and that number will become a little more significant later on. Next slide. I think you just recently, a few months ago, the Beaufort Chamber, by the way, the Military Enhancement Committee functions under the Beaufort Chamber. They created it and they manage it and hold all the meetings, and all the meetings are held in their facility. Military Appreciation Day is one thing that the Chamber does annually to help recognize and appreciate the military families and military servicemen. ACUS, the Air Installation Compatibility Use Zone. The military just loves stuff like this, the abbreviations that nobody can remember. But for example, when F-35s come in, there's always been a noise consideration with respect to Marine Corps Air Station. But when new aircraft come in and new takeoff and landing profiles, they have to adjust the airspace that they use and try to minimize the noise. So that's what ACUS was about. REPI, Readiness and Environmental Protection Integration. This recently at Parris Island, you're all aware of the average elevation of Parris Island, and it's susceptible to damage from storm surge and sea level rise, and they've recently funded some shoreline enhancement to Parris Island to make that facility more sustainable. Townsend Range it doesn't impact Bluffton and Beaufort County too much. I thought I knew where Townsend Range was, but just as a matter of interest, it's in Long and McIntosh counties in coastal Georgia. And it's an area where the Marine aircraft can operate and have air-to-ground operations. So BRAC, ACUS, and REPI will have a quiz on this at the end of this briefing. Next slide. We're already there. No, I'm sorry. Hit me with accomplishments, no activities. Thank you. One thing that is pending is what the Navy wants to do with the 100+ acres where the Navy hospital is. There is currently some VA clinic services in the Navy hospital, but that is not a permanent situation. The Navy is going to have to decide what they want to do with that facility, and the county and the Military Enhancement Committee and other entities are in contact with how the best utilization of that 100+ acres once the Navy hospital is no more. But also the VA is looking to put another clinic in Beaufort County after the Navy hospital closes. There's a 50-mile rule where you can't have a VA clinic within 50 miles of each other. So you've got one Savannah, one Charleston, and the 50-mile radius sort of puts it somewhere in Beaufort County, place yet to be determined. And the Navy and Marines want to, with respect to medical care, build larger clinics or standalone clinics at the Marine Corps Air Station and at Parris Island. Once upon a time, the Navy hospital used to take care of servicemen, but they ultimately want to have a clinic at the air station and a clinic at Parris Island. And recently, at the Don Ryan Center, we had a meeting with respect to keeping employment, keeping people that retirees and young servicemen that are leaving after 1 and 2 enlistments, rather than going somewhere else. They have a lot of skills and talent and youth, and we try to encourage efforts to encourage them to stay in Beaufort County. And the USCB is developing a program that identifies employment opportunities that can access, or young servicemen can access if they're leaving the Marines or retiring, they can access that and see what's possible in the Beaufort area for continued employment and to stay here rather than move somewhere else. And this relates, I think, to the wives of servicemen. They may well be nurses or working in emergency rooms or teaching, and they may be the deciding factor as to where that family stays. So we should be able to reach out to them, encouraging them to, for some decision on continued employment and continuing to live in Beaufort County. As we all are aware, I've been told a long time ago, if mama is not happy, nobody's happy. So, am I running out of, I have run out of slides. And it's not even 7:30. So, General Williamson, the commander of Parris Island, was closing his remarks, and he's not a he's not a Beaufort native, and has not been in Parris Island that long, but he encourages his Marines, if they have a choice, either San Diego or Parris Island, he tries to encourage them to come to Parris Island. And he pointed out in our meeting with him that Beaufort County and the community has the strength of 3 C's: culture, cuisine, and climate. And people ought to take advantage of that and stay in Beaufort County and as long as they can. I will appreciate this time, and I'll be happy to take any questions, or am I going to get the picture taken with the mayor?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Any questions from council?
No question, just a comment. Thank you, one, for your service and your work to this town. And great presentation, and we're grateful to have you serving in this capacity. Thanks for the update.
Thank you. Well, the money, you can't beat the money.
I just wanted to say real quick, 10 years ago when I was still working with utility, and I made it a priority to hire veterans because there is such a culture of perseverance, and they're well structured. And so I would always encourage anyone, when given the opportunity, with the discipline that they have, to hire veterans.
Mayor, if I can just follow up to what former Mayor McCracken said. I know one of the things that probably will be coming, or has kind of already come, is a potential request as we go into the budget for next year as some funding to help support the operations of the Military Enhancement Committee as we continue to move forward. One of the reasons I know I wanted Mr. McCracken to come in and kind of present it was just to preface that as we get into budget season for next year.
Anything?
Thank you, sir.
For those of you who don't know this gentleman that just finished speaking, he's been around here a long time. And the name on the wall back there, behind your heads, that's him. And it's our honor to have him come in and talk to us because he's seen more and done more and accomplished more in his life than I know, more than I will ever. But thank you for being here. Okay, up next we'll have some utility updates. Up first will be Dominion Energy and Ms. Blakely.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's so good to be with you all tonight. Thank you for having me. And Mayor McCracken, thank you so much for your good work. It is wonderful to hear this report on the Military Enhancement Committee, which is near and dear to my heart. Dominion Energy has some upcoming work in the town of Bluffton, and we wanted to give you an overview about what's going to be happening in your backyard. Dominion Energy's mission is to provide reliable, affordable, and increasingly clean energy that powers our customers every day. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about hardening the grid, and what that means is centered around the Hardyville to Bluffton transmission line. Dominion Energy South Carolina and our contractors are going to be replacing existing wooden poles along a 15-mile corridor and replacing those with self-supporting galvanized steel poles. Some of this work has already begun. We're going to be moving into the town of Bluffton and finishing that work, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about that. The new line will be designed to meet all new modern electric codes and will increase reliability and resiliency along this area and the route. This is good news. This is investing millions and millions of dollars into our infrastructure in order to be able to provide more reliable and more resilient energy. One of the things that we've noticed is that this has become well, obviously, this is a growing area, and so the demand to provide more energy as well as more resilient energy is very clear. So all of this line is going to be rebuilt exclusively on existing right-of-ways. So where there is a pole now, we're going to maintain that construction in that same place. So they'll be generally located in the same location as existing structures today. And we expect minimal impacts to the community and to the environment. And just know that this is just a replacement of existing infrastructure, but it's good news for the residents and the businesses and the friends here in the town of Bluffton because it increases your reliability. I talked about this project already being underway. We began permitting into the design for this in the first quarter of 2022. We started in the Hardyville section of this line and began in 2024. And we did that in a 3-month window. And we anticipate the same construction schedule for the spring of this year. We're going to be beginning at the Pritchardville substation, and it'll end at our Burnt Church Road substation. We anticipate all work being done by July of this year. We anticipate starting next week. We expect minimal service interruptions. The work that we're going to be doing is going to last for 50 years. We should have minimal impact to your traffic. If we do, we're going to work with your staff and your police department to make sure that, in the South Carolina Department of Transportation, to make sure that those are minimal and won't impact our friends and neighbors too terribly much. The noise level for this work should be minimal. We will be working mostly during weekdays, mostly during business hours, and there should just be minimal impact to this project, but maximum benefit for this project. We wanted to let you know that we're going to be looking forward to working with your team. We'll be communicating with them daily and giving them updates on where we are and how things are going. And again, we anticipate no problems as we begin next week. I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns that you might have on this project.
Any questions from council?
I have a question. Thank you for the update. I have a question in regards to, I see you all are updating and replacing the wooden poles. In consideration of this, are there plans down the road to go towards like having the underground power lines, or like has a cost analysis been done to see what that looks like?
These transmission lines are going to be overhead for sure, and they should last for the next 50 years. This is stainless steel, galvanized steel poles that should last against wind speeds, hurricane speed winds, and be a resilient force for the years to come. If you want to look at any section of undergrounding, we can definitely do that. Overhead is our standard means of service. Anything underground would be non-standard, and it would be something that we can give you an analysis on. We can give you some costs. We can work with you on the neighborhoods that you want us to analyze. And it is non-standard, and usually it will come with some price variation for that.
Understood. I think I would definitely like to see what that would look like in terms of, I don't know my other council members' ideas on that, but I know that when we had the last storm here that came through, a lot of people were impacted with the overhead power lines, and I know some folks went longer than a week even without it. So I know if it's something that we can plan ahead for the future and get some eyes on it, might be something worth considering.
Absolutely. You let us know what sections you want us to analyze, and we'll be happy to run those scenarios.
Thank you, Blakely.
One question.
Yes, sir.
The transmission coming from Hardyville to Bluffton, and I think you had mentioned in a conversation, eventually that's going to be a loop feed.
Right.
Right, which it is not now. The transmission grid, if the transmission went out to Hardyville, it was out. The other question, the question is between the two substations, is there a transmission transfer switch built into it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if the trees get on one section, you can open it
isolate.
automatically and then it feeds, okay.
Isolate and trigger the problem.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Fred? Will my electric bill go down?
Your power will be more reliable, and we're happy for that.
Thank you for your presentation.
Pardon anything?
No question.
Thank you, Blakely. We
Thank you for
appreciate you
having
coming
me.
in. Up next, we're going to have Miss Ashley Feaster with Palmetto Electric Cooperative.
Right, the power company across the street, right? We go switch around. I feel like I was just here talking about this, but we do this every 4 years. I'm just going to talk to you today. We are coming up on our 4-year anniversary of tree trimming, which is something that we cycle in every 4 years. We last did it in the town of Bluffton in 2021. So our staff started meeting with our operations staff and team started meeting with the town staff in January to talk through kind of how we're going to do it and the process and making sure that everybody's happy along the way. So I just am going to highlight this up here is a map of where we will be in going through. And honestly, in the town of Bluffton, the main 2 corridors for Palmetto Electric's power lines and tree trimming is going to be the Simmonsville and the Buck Island areas. There's some small pockets on 278. For the most part, though, that's unincorporated, Beaufort County. And I'm sure, though, there will be phone calls that come to the town of Bluffton of residents that aren't sure that they are, that tree trimming is happening in Beaufort County versus the town. So we will work with staff on that. Just to talk through the reason why we do this every 4 years. It's one for public safety, making sure limbs aren't coming down on people, on homes, cars, and in our roadways. And then also our worker and our operational safety, making sure that when our workers are out there in the field that there are not unexpected safety hazards in their way. And then lastly, reliability, making sure that our power stays on for our residents here in the town of Bluffton. We work with Southern Limb and Tree. They will be doing 100% of the tree trimming. Our staff right now, Will Peoples, will be directing this effort on the preliminary side of it, but he is set to retire here soon, and there will be somebody in his place, and we will make sure, I know Kevin and talk to operations staff, that person is brought in and able to talk with them, and all the plans are forthcoming, but I would likely imagine that it would be somebody that's well familiar with our process. So the point of contact, though, for Southern Lemon Tree is Brandon Cheek, and I know staff has his contact, and we'll be working on a daily basis of where we are and where we accomplish at the end of the day and where we'll be the next day. The definitive start time is not yet known, not yet completely confirmed, but I can tell you it's going to be somewhere between late summer and early fall. And the earlier we can do it, midsummer, the better, because going down that corridor, you know, we have schools and we try to avoid school drop-off times and things like that in departure time. So we will be working through all that. And then just last but not least, what we typically do on clearances, if typical clearances are 10 feet away from primary wires, okay, and 5 feet from secondary or service drops. So that's what you can expect if we have limbs in those parameters. Then we will be looking at those. And obviously there are some extenuating conditions, specimen trees, and also other things that might dictate otherwise, but we will work through that. And again, our folks are directly in touch with staff, and we will have an easy, hopefully, couple weeks of getting this done. So.
Are you dreaming?
No. I will say our guys are great. They go out there, they talk to the residents that they're going to be going into their yards and working through all this. And we've had a positive outcome. And those discussions are always usually, understood. And it's honestly for our residents' safety more than anything else. So.
Thank you, Ashley.
Do you have any questions?
Mr. Hamilton?
Ashley, we did this exercise before, maybe not your company, but got a lot of complaints from the residents when they didn't understand the process. So could you work with our staff to make sure that when you're trimming someone's tree in their yard, that we can give them some satisfaction about why and how can we do it?
Absolutely.
So they won't feel like
I think in 2021, when we went forward with this, that was right after maybe some other tree trimming that were obviously, and, you know, a lot of, I hate to throw it on Blakely, a lot of the residential areas that are tree trimming is going on, unfortunately, you know, is in Dominion, South Carolina's territory. But, you know, for the most part, I think all of us came together with staff back in 2021 to figure out how to make this process very relatable to our residents and communicating and providing information ahead of time and I think we all came up with a good communications plan that Debbie put out, and really helped our residents understand the process and why and where and all that. So we will move forward with the same approach this year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Burton, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Just a comment. Thank you, Ashley, for the update. I know that communications to Councilman Hamilton's point is huge. I know a lot of the frustration too came with some residents who had like tree trunks and other debris that were left in their yard, and were kind of confused on whose responsibility it was to discard it. So if we can make sure folks are aware of whose responsibility it is to do what, and we can work to make sure residents aren't caught off guard with that.
And Sutherland will have they'll be having their grinding machines and all those fun things with them. So.
Thank you.
So that things are taken care, mulched up as they go.
Dan?
The only thing I just want to remind both utilities is, and we've had discussion, I think everybody's more proactive, as you both have indicated this evening about the past experiences, but just recall that when we do spraying, you're in an urban area, you know, if you're in the middle of nowhere, it's okay, everything goes dead, but when you're in an urban area, it stands out like a sore thumb, and so please take caution.
We don't expect there to be any spraying at this point. If it is, it'd be very minimal on the areas that we have in front of us, but we don't expect that at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have our public comment session. During public comment, each speaker is limited to a total of 3 minutes per meeting, regardless of whether the person is speaking on their own behalf or as an agent for others. Meeting attendees may not donate, transfer, yield, or give all or any portion of their speaking time to another person. All public comments are to be conducted from the podium and directed to the town council as a whole and not to any member thereof. All speakers shall be mindful and respectful of those participating in or present at the meeting. Speakers shall be expected to be civil in their language and shall refrain from comment or behavior that involves disorderly speech or action, name-calling, personal attacks, threats, obscene or indecent remarks, and/or disruptive actions. All speakers shall confine their comments to the issues under the jurisdiction of the town council. Speakers shall not use the public comment period to promote or advertise awards, businesses, services, goods, or candidates for public office. Any speaker that violates these rules or protocols for the public comment may be ruled out of order by the presiding officer. Any person whose comments have been ruled out of order shall immediately cease and desist from further improper comments. The refusal of an individual to desist from further improper comments may subject the individual to removal from the meeting and/or citation under Section 2-49 of the town codes. Any questions on that? Nope. Okay, up first we'll have Tyler Rice. Please state your name, your address, when you get up here for the record, please.
My name is Tyler Rice. My address is 121 Pinecrest Drive, and I'm here to talk to you all about Low Country Jobs Now. So my name is Tyler Rice. I'm a senior communications major at University of South Carolina, Beaufort. This semester, I have an internship with the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce, and I've been tasked with assisting the enhancement of our new jobs website, lowcountryjobsnow.org, which we believe will help address the workforce shortage in our area. Our goal is to expand the potential local workforce for our members and the region, to To do that, we've collaborated with local individuals and organizations throughout the area to develop 6 unique workforce categories for businesses and organizations to consider. Number 1 is high school internships. We've partnered with our 6 local high schools to develop information and insights on enhancing and expanding high school internship opportunities across the Lowcountry. Number 2 is college internships. We've partnered with the local colleges for similar efforts, focusing on the development and advancement of college internships with local business opportunities. Number three is trade apprenticeships. We've partnered with TCL and Apprenticeship Carolina to help promote apprenticeship opportunities within the trade industries throughout the region. And our big focus of ours has been helping our transitioning veterans have a more seamless transition into their civilian careers. And to do this, we've partnered with Beaufort County Economic Development Corps and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's foundation, Hiring Our Heroes. Number 5 is diverse abilities. In an effort to create meaningful job opportunities for those with diverse abilities, we've partnered with the Beaufort County Disabilities Coalition to enact this. And finally, number 6 is Encore Careers. We're encouraging our retired population to get back into the workforce and provide their invaluable expertise to the local businesses in this area. While these 6 job force categories are our main forte, there's a job for almost every industry, and if not yet, we're hoping soon there will be. From civil engineer, HVAC technician, paralegal, and horticulturalist, many others. Lowcountry Jobs Now is widely equipped to lend a hand to both companies and employees in enhancing their experience of navigating the potential job market. Lowcountry Jobs Now launched in July of 2024 and has already achieved significant results with over 900 job postings and growing employment connections. We encourage everyone to explore the platform, and I welcome your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody? Great. Thank you very much. Great idea. Okay. Next, we have Patricia Collins.
All right, my name is Barrett, and Mayor and Town Manager, council members.
Name and address, if you don't mind, for the record.
Barrett Collins at 12 Red Cedar Street, Bluffton, South Carolina. My intro is that I've been in the Lowcountry since 1988. I've been in Bluffton since 1993. I was in Bluffton leadership with Fred Hamilton in 2003. I served on the ATAX committee for 7 years, had the privilege of doing that. I just say that to tell you that I love this community, love Bluffton. My request is a meeting with the mayor and the town manager for the purpose of setting up a project committee for finding a location for a 12-step clubhouse and sober living residence south of the Broad, here in the Bluffton area. The impact to our community in the areas of police work, traffic violations, domestic violence, hospital care, jail time, could reach for decades if this project could become a reality. And if it even just helped one person, it would be worth the effort. I'm a poster child for the model that I am proposing. I went to my first closed meeting in Tipton, Georgia, April 5th of 1978. In that meeting, they said, God can give you so much more than the wine, honey. Put the plug in the jug and see where it goes. And with the help of a great church, a rehab, a sober living house, and vocational rehabilitation even stepped in to help me be the first college educated from a private Mennonite college. I know this model works, but it takes a community to make that happen. This is all coming out of the fact that the town manager sent me a survey and said, what do you think this community needs? And it's not a want, it's a need. We need this in the fabric of our community. The model works. We just have to find a way to make the model work here. It's not wrong to have a problem. What is wrong is to have a problem and not find a solution. And I'm asking the town to help the community that is behind this to make this become a reality. And I'm asking for a meeting to discuss further how we can make this move forward, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You just communicate with Marcia and she'll oblige your meeting date. Or she can contact you. Thank you, ma'am. Up next, we have Krista Flanders.
My name is Krista Flanders, 21 River Tree Circle. Good evening, Mayor, Town Manager, Council. My name is Krista Flanders. I will celebrate 10 years of sobriety in August. As a person in long-term recovery, I speak up loudly so people don't die quietly. Recovery is hard to reach in Bluffton, and we still have no local detox in all of Beaufort County. 70 days into this year, and I have had over 100 people reach out to me for help. We do have a great outpatient, Southern Sky Recovery, and they are opening their first sober living homes in Hardyville over the weekend, but that's literally our only option, and we can learn a lot from Southern Sky. Illicit fentanyl is flooding our streets. It got personal a few months ago, and I had to put all my resources to use. Someone really close to me relapsed after years of sobriety. I watched firsthand the destruction it causes. When someone is ready for help, you have a very small window to get them to help. They need, or you may never see them again, or you will be attending their funeral. Endless phone calls with no options leaves one hopeless, but there's so much hope. Hilton Head has Yana, a 24/7 spot where someone can find someone to help them. I truly believe Bluffton would benefit greatly from something like that. The closest detox is Charleston, and what does someone do after detox? If they come back home and attend an outpatient, they might not have a safe place to return to. Or if they go to long-term treatment and then return home, they might not have a safe place or need help transitioning back into society. It will be a beautiful day when we have the options of treatment and a safe place to go in sober living houses in Bluffton. Sober living helps restore people into active members of society. It creates honest, healed people. It will help with the houseless, the crime rate, the unemployment rate, creating safe parents for kids, the DUI rate, so many benefits to our community. Recovery is for everyone, even trauma for first responders and military. Cornerstone Church locally believes this and has a great Christ-based recovery group that meets at their new campus, 13 Grassy Lane, every Thursday at 6 o'clock. We do invite all of you because recovery is for everyone, and we all need healing. Thank you.
Up next, we have Ms. Sharon Brown.
I want to start out by doing this, and this is for you, Ms. Burton, for that excellent Grammy Award-winning little theatrical you gave after I made a comment last month. I want to thank you for that. So, I'm Sharon Brown. I live at 163 Buck Island Road in Bluffton, South Carolina. I want to first start out by saying, and this is what you said about me, some of this entails your name. I would like to start out by saying that the town council and the police department are doing a great job in our community. So I don't want nobody to get it twisted that I'm unappreciative of what you guys do for our community. But for the things that you don't do needs to be brought to the table. I'm very grateful. So I want this to go on record, Ms. Secretary. I want to just clarify my comment last month at the town council meeting, and in reference to my comment was taken out of context about the police department procedure concerning an overabundance of police officers from two jurisdictions present at an accident involving a young man that was hit by a car on a bicycle by Eagles Field on Buck Island Road. There were 3 Beaufort police cruisers, I said, and 4 or 5 town police cars at the scene. Is this always the amount of officers that's supposed to appear on site when a pedestrian is hit by a car or an accident takes place or whatever. This is why we need a meeting, which I can't ever get. So I went outside of y'all jurisdiction and someone's coming to inform us. I saw the young man thumb rise up to the officers as to say, I'm okay, and I thank God that he was relieved. Now, this leaves my comment was taken out of context. It was looked at as insensitive or vindictive toward the child injury. That was not what I was stating about his injury, nor if the police department is good or bad doing their job. As a matter of fact, in some communities, kudos go out to our Bluffton PD finalists for doing a superb job by being active and visible. This is why I am mortified for you, Ms. Burden, who would come behind my public comment and make an emotional, tearing up comment saying, I just want to make a comment about Ms. Brown speaking about the child that was hit. I was not speaking about the child that was hit. I was speaking about my concern that 8 officers were on a Eagles field for one child in an accident. With that said, Ms. Burden, you tried to display me as an uncaring human being, not caring about that child that was hit. You attacked my character and my integrity, which is clearly unacceptable and will not be allowed. It's ironic, though, that you never comment on any other thing warranted that I have said about my community concerns that I have brought to this town council every month. But last month, my comment in particular, you made, and it was misconstrued, and I don't know why. Lastly, town council members, one of your jobs are to serve the needs of the people who live here and work here, not attack their characters and comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next, we have Miss Carolyn Brown.
Good evening, councilmen, members, and officials. I am Carolyn Brown from 1111 May River Road. I have been speaking in front of this board for now 2 years. I spoke in front of you all months ago, addressing the concern that many Gullah natives, such as myself, are fighting against. I was told at the last meeting that the town manager or someone from the Growth and Management Department would reach out to me to schedule a meeting, and I am still waiting on that meeting to happen. I have served this community as an educator for over 45 years. I am a business owner, a longtime native, and a tax-paying resident of Bluffton, and someone deserving the basic respect of follow-up of a meeting. Since I last spoke with you all, more mobile homes have been pulled onto Simmonsville and Buck Island Road after hours at night. With no visible permits, are not in compliance with the restriction often given to Gullah people or Black people or whoever. Residents who attempt to do the same thing. Why the rules are different for my community. We try to follow the rules and being punished for doing so. When other people ignore the rules to get their way and seem to avoid the consequences of enduring and the waiting time we are subjected to. Why is that? We are told we can only have 4 dwellings per acre on some of those lands. And we are told, some of them were told 3 on the land. Yet we have folks around us placing 5 and 6 dwelling on 1 acre of land on the same property that we were told we couldn't do. Our land and ownership of it is existing since the 1800s. We were here before many, yet we are being pushed out of only places we know as at home, as home. And it seems that the town is not helping enough and pushing it aside. The lengthy ordinance and code seem to only apply to us and everyone else who can pay to play. It's not right. It's not fair. Do better, please, Bluffton. Treat the natives in the town better. Don't box us out. Place us in the maintenance of keeping up with everybody where we enjoy our land. The town has a serious problem. It seems the need to be addressed sooner than later. We have no idea what it's like living in a place we call home your entire life and being treated like a foreigner in your own home. We watch other people bypass rules and do what they please, yet we can't hardly do anything without receiving citations, warnings, fines, etc. I speak on behalf of my Black community in the town, where no longer is losing trust in the people.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Our
Thank
3
you.
minutes is up. Thank you. Up next, we have Mike Hughes.
Good evening. Technically, I'm here for the public hearing portion. Should I wait until,
Oh, well, you have to.
is that okay?
The public hearing that's for first reading tonight?
Yes, sir.
You don't have to sign up for that.
Okay.
If you want to.
All right, I'll wait for the.
Do you want to wait until that presentation is presented? Oh, that's fine.
Thank you.
Sure. Next, Mr. Bruce Trimmer.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, and staff. I'm here representing...
Name and address, sir.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. My name is Bruce Trimber, and I live at 5788 Yopon in Stock Farm. The reason I'm here is I just wanted to introduce myself as the new interim Historic Bluffton Foundation and Hayward House Executive Director. It is a position that the board decided to bring me on, our board decided to bring me on, and I'm filling that gap for a period that may be short, may be long. I'm not sure until we find a new executive director. But I wanted to make sure that you all know that I'm here because I believe in Bluffton. I want to make sure that our historic foundation and our museum embrace the town, continues to be part of Bluffton, and that we're able to work as a community because I love Bluffton the way it is, and I think we need to respect the history of Bluffton, and we also have this wonderful museum that we need to respect. And I just wanted to say that I would like to be talking to all of you folks at some point to let you know what the thoughts are and where the board is heading, and then also the opportunities ahead. So that's my quick speech, but...
Oh, yeah, you're great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce. Welcome. Up next, we have Ms. Lynn Greeley.
Before you start, I wanted to...
Name and address, please, for the record.
Okay. Lynn Greeley, 21 Lavington, Hilton Head. I wanted to... I have a POA for Skip to talk for me.
Let her go ahead and she's going to make her speech until the courts decide. The courts are going to make you comply to her being allowed to give me a POA to make a speech for her. I'm going to let her make it today until the courts force you to comply, Mr. Taylor. So I'm going to sit down.
Your clock's ticking, man.
Well, I would like it to start over because I wanted to talk about that. So could we have a full 3 minutes?
Just go ahead and start.
I can't even have 3 minutes.
Not changing the rules for one person.
First, I am asking this council to vote in favor of doing an independent Doge forensic audit on the annual budget and year-end audit. This hiring cannot be connected to our town manager, lawyers, or mayor who have been accused of either unethical or criminal misconduct. Instead, I suggest we put the woman from the county council in charge of finding and hiring a Doge-type forensic audit firm to begin, specifically Ms. Tabernack and Ms. Howard. May I recommend a firm from Charleston called the Quick Group, composed of former FBI forensic audit experts. We do not have this talent locally, and this would assure a totally independent review. Further, I suggest these councilwomen be in charge of setting up a forensic audit committee made up of 5 local volunteer CPAs with the town manager. Also, the future, all accounting, budgets, audits, contracts, and procurement bids would be available to all taxpayers under the FOIA Freedom of Information Act. From this day forward, this committee would be in charge of assuring all funds, contracts, budgets, year-end audits, procurement bids, and legal fees are properly reviewed and assure money is spent properly and fully accounted for. We have now fully proven the SC Accommodations Tax Code is drafted illegally and is in violation of federal law, tax law. Our current hired DMOs cannot be an IRS 501c6 nonprofit chamber or CVB. It must be for-profit ad agency, local media, newspaper, tourist magazine. This council's illegal DMO funding with no procurement must end. Senator Tom Davis, Criminal Division, and AG can fully confirm. Very disturbing is Mayor Perry's comments about his role in reviewing the chamber's finances and town lawyer Coltrane, Alford, Finger, and Gruber illegal drafting of fraudulent chamber DMO contracts, and Mark Orlando illegal act is all reason enough for audits. And imagine what we don't know. The FAC committee will end this. Perry, when asked how he feels about the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce using $2.5 million in annual tax dollars without having a show of invoice or receipts, Perry said he was okay with how the chamber was operating and didn't see a need for pushing for further transparency like Mayor Bennett did. He said he didn't feel a need to grind down on every invoice. Is this the type of mayor leadership lawyers we want in control of our tax funds? Never, no way.
Up next is Skip Oglen.
Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. You're violating of a chamber FOIA. First, how many think this chamber, Hilton Head Chamber, CVB, should be paid millions to promote tourism when technology, local search, Facebook, and all social media does this work for free? Example, when was the last time you booked a hotel room on a chamber website or used Condé Nast magazine for travel plans? The answer is never. A Chamber of Commerce is simply an IRS 501c6 nonprofit business league. Its only legitimate function is to promote its private members like electricians, beauty salons, etc. We don't want to put chambers out of business. We want to make them operate legally and properly under national gold standards. The Chamber CVB used tax funds to generate millions of illegal advertising profits and paid no taxes. They also have no town business license. This is blatantly unfair competition against local media that sell advertising legitimately and pay their taxes. Senator Tom Davis, IRS and DOR and AG can now fully confirm that the South Carolina Accommodation Tax Code is drafted illegally and violates federal law because it forces local government to use nonprofit chamber CVBs and DMOs rather than hire the for-profit media companies like ad agencies, newspapers, tourist magazines that actually specialize in promoting tourism. This is why our state is in big trouble, allowing millions of our tax funds to be issued illegally to these phony baloney nonprofit thieves who spend profits lavishly on themselves, their cronies, and a $600,000 salary for Bill Miles. The IRS soon will contact Bluffton and all South Carolina cities, 50 states, 2,000 city mayors and chambers and CVBs. They will all be held liable to the federal government and local taxpayers because they knowingly issued illegal tax funds. Also, tax funds, you cannot issue tax funds to private nonprofits. It's against the constitutional state law using money that's not for the public benefit, good and reason, and the Rotary would be a good example of that. We are seeking DOJ, FBI, IRS forensic audits to prove state and federal violations and crimes connected even to the 3 national chamber CVB organizations, the U.S. Chamber, the ACCE, and the DI, assisting billions of IRS UBIT tax evasion by their members. Even Google is involved in this. We are seeking DOJ audits nationwide on billions of accommodation and hospitality taxes that have disappeared and unaccounted for all over South Carolina and every state in this country. We will start with South Carolina and Bluffton as a laboratory test to win this. And we're going to hold Lisa Salka and you, Mr. Toomer, liable for this if you don't stop it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public comment is now over. We'll move on to communications from mayor and council. We'll start with you, Ms. Fraser.
Sure. I think we all have a responsibility, especially in public office, to dispel misinformation when it happens. Contrary to some of the comments, I would like to applaud and remind everyone, those here and at home, of the wonderful job our finance department has done in terms of we have audits annually and are recognized as one of only 5 municipalities in the state of South Carolina with a AAA Moody bond rating, and in 2022, we're accredited as one of 7 in the U.S. and Canada for excellent rating in government finance and management. So I would like to give an applause and thank always our finance department and team for not only being great stewards of taxpayers' funds, but anything and everything that we do is public information. And none of myself, my colleagues, or staff here are involved in anything negligible that will be alleged. It's also women's history, so I'm hoping everyone here in the audience or at home do take the time to celebrate or highlight the amazing women in your life that without many of us would not afford a lot of the things that we get to enjoy. So thank you to all the women here on staff for the town of Bluffton and my fellow colleague up here on the dais with me as well.
Well said, Ms. Frazier. I'll just take and follow up on that. I think that was well stated, especially when there's so much misinformation in today's world everywhere. I believe, if I say this correctly, that the town of Bluffton was one of the first to actually take their budget and move it online where it could be audited or looked at by anybody in the community at any time. It's all a very public process, and I think most people understand that. But again, kudos to staff, and again, I'm going to say one more time, the ribbon cutting at New Riverside Park was just unbelievable. I've never seen a ribbon cutting like it. We've had a lot of great ones, and it was full of young families, and they love Bluffton. I mean, if you want to know, you hear enough about who doesn't love Bluffton, well, go out to some of the parks and you're going to find the people who love Bluffton. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flynn. Mr. Hamilton.
I give all my time to Dan and Bridget.
It's been a year now since I've sat up here with all of you, and I just want to thank all of council and staff and so many of our residents for your support on me serving up here for the last year.
Well, thank you for serving. We appreciate all the work you put into your job. Okay, if nothing else, we're going to start a public hearing on consideration of an ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinance, Chapter 23 of the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 5, Design and Standards, Section 5.4, Wetlands, and Section 5.10, Stormwater, and Article 9, Definitions and Interpretation, Section 9.2, Defined Terms. So this is a public hearing and first reading. We'll have Mr. Kevin Icard.
Do you want to call for a public hearing, sir?
Yeah, if you want, I call for public comment. We can go ahead and do that. I thought they wanted to do that.
Hey, Mike. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Mike Hughes. I live at Fort Harris Nest, Savannah, Georgia. I am a civil engineer with Thomas Nutton Engineering Company and been working in the Bluffton area for quite some time now. First, I'd like to say I'm in support of the intention of this ordinance. Right now, as I understand, speaking to not less than 6 staff members, by the way, all answer my calls, especially Andrea, who I'm extremely appreciative to. She may have spent several hours with me. That the intent of this ordinance is to make sure we can protect wetlands from destruction, the unlawful destruction of wetlands. And so with that, I am in full support of what the ordinance stands for. My concern is the pace and the language by which this is being written. So I think it's important to put a little context first. So as it relates to the language, a lot of what the impetus for this was the 2023 Sackett ruling against the EPA, which basically said the United States EPA did not have jurisdiction over wetlands that did not have contiguous connection to a U.S. water body, a navigable water. And that really put a lot of wetlands in jeopardy across the country. However, in the coastal counties of South Carolina in 1977, the Coastal Tidelands and Wetlands Act was implemented that took jurisdiction, state jurisdiction over all wetlands. So I want to make sure that's clear that the state has jurisdiction over all wetlands. What we don't have right now is a local government that has the capacity to actually protect and enforce when someone violates those laws. So I do believe it's very important to be able to give the power to the town to enforce violators, bad actors who are destroying wetlands. My concern is the ability to impact wetlands when you follow the law, when you go through the proper codes, when you actually go through the proper channels, and the negative impact that some of the buffers may have on the residents of Bluffton. For example, there's a consultant that's being employed by the town right now who's going to be doing an assessment of wetlands. If you discover a wetland that's on an adjacent property, right? You did your due diligence on your property, but a wetland's discovered 10 feet on someone else's property. That buffer extends onto that private property owner's property and renders their property undevelopable. I was told that is not the intent of the ordinance, but that's the way the ordinance is written. And I think that's a taking of people's private property, and that's a concern to me. Another example, if you go through the proper channels, you go through NEPA, you go and you do your cultural resources assessment, your biological assessment, and the 2-year process to get a permit through the state of South Carolina and through the state of, or in the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Under this ordinance, if you go through those channels and you actually get your permit lawfully and doing the proper due diligence, this still does not allow you to do road impacts or other things because the wetlands are protected without the ability to go through the proper channels. That is not the intention of the ordinance, as I understand, but that is how the ordinance is written. So what I would ask is that please consider revising the language to make sure those who are not bad actors, those who are doing the proper things, those who are going through the right channels, can actually do the things that are good for the town of Bluffton, and we don't implement practices that have the potential to take private property away from residents of Bluffton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Hang on there. I was stopping Kevin because the public hearing's still open.
Sorry about that. There are more. Second call for comment.
Hello, my name is Grant McClure. I work for the Coastal Conservation League. I live in Beaufort, and my address is 1511 Sycamore Street. I'm here this evening to offer the Conservation League's support for the amendments to the UDO regarding wetlands. You know, the town really has an opportunity to be a leader here in adopting these local protections. You know, you would have a 50-foot buffer, and you'd also give the public the ability to report violations. And I think, you know, it sounds like the town councils, or excuse me, the town staff is very accessible. And so having the public be able to reach out to the town, I think is a huge benefit if they see suspicious activities happening in the wetland areas. And I think we all know how valuable wetlands are from an ecological perspective. They provide flood control and mitigation. They buffer against storms and help reduce erosion. They also provide important wildlife habitat and are important to us for our quality of life, for things like recreation, tourism, and they're pleasant to look at. And so, you know, despite all of these great things, we are experiencing wetland loss, both across the state, where it's estimated that we've lost about 27% or 2.3 million acres of wetlands. And also locally here in Bluffton, where we've gone down from about 4,820 acres to 4,307 acres. That's from the years 2001 to 2021. So you've lost 513 acres of wetlands within the town's jurisdiction in the past 20 years. And so there is an urgency to this work, and I understand, you know, wanting to take precautions. And I think there's, you know, avenues to create relief with things like river buffer waivers and through something like a ZBOA process if needed. But just wanted to congratulate the town and offer our support and look forward to seeing this one through. So appreciate it.
Thank you. This will be third call for public comment. Seeing none, public comments closed. Now we can get going there. Cabo.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Well, I'll be honest,
most of my presentation has actually already been discussed during the public hearing portion of this. So I'll just briefly go over, as Mike had mentioned, the Sackett case versus the EPA is kind of why we're here this evening. So a lot of this background information, we've discussed this in previous workshops that we've had with council. So a couple other things is just with the Sackett case, these are just different types of wetlands that we've discussed, and we've kind of highlighted the areas that specifically pertain to Bluffton. Again, the importance of the wetlands, they absorb, store stormwater. These amendments are here to provide protection and conservation of these existing areas. But if I could, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of go straight into so dealing with the wetlands from the actual UDO aspect of it, we have 3 areas that we're focused on having proposed changes. The first one is section 5.4, where we're actually removing all of the verbiage, which is just a statement about what the wetlands section is, and moving it over to section 510 under stormwater. After that is section 510 itself, where we're looking to revise the stormwater language to include wetland buffers protection, and then the conservation language as it relates to the stormwater design. 510.7, which is the actual expanding on the protections of the wetlands themselves. The 510.8 is dealing with the violations, enforcement, and penalties that encompasses that. And then for 9.2, that's the addition of some terms that we'll use, which are permits, persons, wetland delineation, uplands, and just refining the current definition of the wetlands. So some of the things that we also need to factor in is dealing with the review criteria. So there are a total of 5 review criteria that this is all in your packet, and I'm happy to go over them if you have specific questions, but all these items have been met. And this evening, your actions are to approve the application as submitted, approve it with any amendments, or to deny the application. One additional comment Mr. Hughes had referred to is that if there's a wetland on someone's adjacent property, or you might have a portion of a wetland on your property, and this new buffer requirement of 50 feet might impact your property. We have provisions in place, as Mr. McClure stated, that someone requests a variance. So there is opportunities for individuals on a case-by-case basis that if they have a unique situation that arises because of the change in this code, that they could request a variance. So to do a blanket change, I think the intent of what you as town council is looking for is this buffer requirement. And then what we can do is look on a case-by-case basis if someone were to have an issue. The other thing to think about, what was stated, is that while yes, there is the state guidelines that are in place, we cannot enforce those state guidelines. So our goal is, by having the local regulations in place, we can actually go out and enforce. Bill and his team can go out and enforce if someone starts to impact a wetland. We're not relying on state regulators to come from wherever, Charleston, to assist us. We're the boots on the ground. We're able to address these situations right then and there. So by having this enforcement in place, we can act quickly on it. And I think that's one of the concerns that we've heard over the past few months, is the ability to get out and make a difference and make the enforcement of when someone's doing something wrong. You also have to remember that these items that we have in place, these are short term. This is the intent is to put this in place while we have a more comprehensive review of the code. I think there was the wetlands delineation that we're also planning on working on. So we will have a more holistic approach at that time as we're moving forward. We're happy to create focus groups that can have a spectrum of individuals that are a part of it, between land planners, engineers, environmentalists, and regular citizens. So that way they can all have a voice as we're moving forward. So that's just kind of a overview on all that. And as stated, this is the first reading, public hearing. We do have a second reading proposed for next month.
And then I do have a suggested motion for you, and if you have any questions, I'm able to answer them.
Ms. Burden, any questions for you?
I have one question. First of all, great job in leading the way with this. Protecting our wetlands from being filled in or built on is extremely important and obviously the best interest of the town. Will this apply to 100% of Bluffton, including anything in a development agreement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hamilton?
Yes, Mr. Hughes' argument gives me some concern. And I didn't have that until you mentioned it tonight. You know, I looked at, but I didn't pick up on that. So I really think that it would be to our advantage to see how we can address his concerns.
Yes, sir.
And I know you said that they can come in and ask for a variance, but that's a tough process. You know, that put a lot of fear and sometimes even financial restraint on our citizens. So I would like for us to look at that a little more.
If I could make a suggestion, if you were to move forward with the approval at first reading, we can look at proposed changes. If some of the concerns is what was discussed this evening, we can determine if it is possible changes that can be made and brought back to you at second reading.
Thank you.
Mr. Wood?
I have nothing.
Ms. Frazier?
No, just echoing again the sentiments of I'm glad that we're leading the way in this cause and further like protecting our wetlands. Also, just wanted to give some clarification. Additionally, the 2023 ruling with the Sackett case put the Clean Water Protection Act into spotlight more so for the federal overreach, but everyone should be reminded that the act itself was created because there were no protection and how our waterways were being polluted and how folks were able to fill in and dredge very sensitive bodies of water with whatever they wanted without that regulation. So this has been a step that has mitigated the protection of our natural habitat and wildlife. And the ordinance that's been drafted here is in addition to that, and I think one that is a very bold representation of our values, just because there are no protections on the federal level or the state level. And since the ruling, we've already lost 60%, which is the equivalent of 118 million acres in this country no longer have the designation of being a wetlands. And that's a very serious concern because this is where our water comes from. This is our source of drinking and sustainability. And so I think in the way the ordinance is created, it gives concessions to say that we are concerned about our habitat and wildlife, and we also are amenable to working with developers and anyone else who may be impacted. And if there is a need, not only for variance, but the code, you know, even brings it down to if there's difficulty adhering to the ordinance, that there are ways to work around that with staff's guidance and direction. So it's not something that should be looked at in a punitive matter where we don't want people to do business here or we want to punish people. We understand that the environment existed here before us, and everyone's come to love and appreciate the area because of it. And enforcing and coming up with solutions like this allows us to continue to ensure that other generations can come after us and enjoy this area too. So that's my sentiment.
Kevin, you know how I feel about this. I'm pushed from the beginning of it to get something quick and try to create something that has teeth, that we can enforce, it's fair, and get it on the books as soon as possible. So all I could suggest is possibly Mike or anyone else from his line of work, you know, have an open dialogue for the next month and see if there's some small word, tweak, whatever, that can be done. to address any other concerns that anybody has, and, we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would make the recommendation that if you want to move forward with this approval, that you would kind of just include a statement in your motion for staff to look at possible adjustments based off of the public hearing comment.
Yeah, the professional views. Okay. Any more from council? Any communications talks? Anybody comments? So do we
Mayor.
have a motion?
Before you get into the motions, I do want to just point out, I know inside your packet, there were two different motions that were included in there. You have one that's the standard motion that Kevin has up as of now. Because we had heard from council that there was a priority to move this forward, we've set everything up in line, including the public hearing tonight, that if council did want to adopt the ordinance as pending doctrine, that you have the ability to do that as well tonight, and he has, I think, language if that's the direction you want to move forward. So I just wanted to say that before you get into your motions.
Mayor, I was looking for that. I was picking this up and looking all over for it, and I, for one, appreciate pending doctrine on this. There's still a 30-day window there for people to communicate. Has already been illustrated this evening.
And unfortunately, somehow an older version of my staff or the presentation got in here, which the version I did have does have, it says, I move to approve by pending doctrine the certain amendments. And then, yeah.
Who wants to make the motion or a motion?
I'm happy to make the motion.
Okay. Any more communications from council? Is there a motion?
I move to approve by pending ordinance doctrine certain amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Unified Development Ordinance, including Article 5, Design Standards, Sections 5.4 Wetlands, and Section 5.10 Stormwater, and Article 9, Definitions and Interpretation, Section 9.2 Defined Terms, as recommended by the Planning Commission, and requesting that staff work with professional.
That staff coordinate with engineers and other professionals on any recommended changes that they may have prior to second reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any talk, any communication? All in favor say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you, Kevin. All right, move on to formal agenda items. Up first is consideration of the acceptance of the Beaufort County School District's 100% annexation petition to annex certain real property contiguous to the town of Bluffton's corporate boundaries, consisting of a total of 24.1 acres, more or less, located at 1105 Bluffton Parkway and bearing Beaufort County tax map numbers R600 029 000 011A 0000 and R600 029 000 000340000. Mr. Icard.
Great. Thank you, Mayor.
It's a mouthful of zeros.
At the end of the evening, I just wanted to let you know, and as it was stated up here, is that so there will be the vote to move this application forward. You can choose to move it forward, and then there will be a second motion for you to either send it to the negotiating committee or to defer it from the negotiating committee. So I just want to make sure that if you do accept the application, that there will be a second motion to either refer it to the negotiating committee or to defer it from the negotiating committee. So the town of Bluffton did receive an application on February 24th to annex a portion of properties, as just clearly stated here, of 24 acres into the town of Bluffton. The applicant is Beaufort County School District, so just make sure that's very clear. They're here this evening to annex the portions of lands that's adjacent to the River Ridge Academy and to move that application forward. There's also a concurrent zoning map amendment. Obviously, when a property is brought into the town, it has to have a zoning designation to it. and we have to change the map in order to show what their property is going to be zoned. So there is a concurrent application through this process. From a vicinity map, I just wanted to show the properties I have here highlighted with the dotted, the red dotted area out on Bluffton Parkway. From an aerial standpoint here, you can just see off of the Parkway. To the north is the existing River Ridge Academy, as well as their ball fields. To the south of the Parkway is Hampton Lake. It's also adjacent to the Bluffton Township Fire District Station 38. And then off to the far is Buckwalter Place. Just another aerial, just to give you a side view so you can see the properties. Currently, it's the 24 acres. There is a vacant single-family home that's out there, and the large pond that is there is a former mining borrow pit. So it's a very deep pond right there that is obviously just full of water now, but in years past was used for mining operations. And then again, from the zoning map aspect of it, the areas highlighted in red would turn to the yellow color, which is what it is the adjacent property zoned, and that's the residential general. And then one of the reasons that the school district is coming forward, that the property is currently zoned T2 rural, and that property, or excuse me, that zoning district in the county does not allow for schools. So the school district came in front of the town, and what they've done is they've asked to annex into the town, and per staff's recommendation, it was to zone it the residential general, which is consistent with what is out there for River Ridge Academy right now. So as of right now, they don't have a specific plan as to what would, how they would configure for a future expansion of the River Ridge Academy. Right now, it is a K-8 school. It is our understanding that they're looking to have a ECC school that would then be either placed, the Early Childhood Center, sorry, that would either be placed on that the property that is being annexed into the town, or they may reconfigure the site. And just kind of back to that aerial map, just so you can see, maybe some reconfigurations of ball fields in order for the building to fit. So that is to be determined. And once it's annexed into the town, they would move forward with site design. So from a process standpoint this evening, we are here for the intent to annex. If you decide to refer this to the negotiating committee, we would then have to establish the dates for that meeting. If not, the next steps is that this would go to Planning Commission for a workshop, and that's in the informal setting for Planning Commission, the applicant, and the public to have an opportunity to have an open discussion with no vote. From there, we go back to Planning Commission for a public hearing and recommendation back to you, and then ultimately a first and second readings. These are the proposed dates that we have as of right now, and as always, the dates are subject to change if any issues come up. I am happy to answer any questions. There's representatives from the school district that are here and can answer any questions you may have for them.
Thank you, Kevin. And let me get this straight. We're only voting on the intent.
You are, yes, the intent. This is the application. Are you accepting the application?
Ms. Frazier, you got anything? Mr. Wood?
No.
Mr. Hamilton?
Question, the zoning that they're requesting, is the same zoning you said that the school, existing school have now?
Yes, sir.
Do they plan to do any housing?
I can't answer that, but the applicant is here, can answer that.
Get that answer?
As my understanding, yep. I'll let them speak on behalf of the school district. Come on, let's come up front.
No.
There's your answer, no. I didn't want to say it, but thank you. Yeah.
Ms. Barton? I know.
Well, I'll just follow up from Mr. Hamilton's. Is there a different zoning designation that we could consider that would not allow as much density should the school district decide to sell the property instead of building a school?
I
know that's not their intent, but I'm just questioning, unintended consequences.
Correct. Based off of previous annexations that have come before you, I understand all your concerns are dealing with, in essence, upzoning and allowing for more rights for properties. Based in the Unified Development Ordinance, the agricultural district would allow for up to 1 unit of residential use per acre. However, there's more agricultural uses that could potentially come from that designation. On top of that, with having the residential general zoning designation already established, to have another zoning district at that location, borderline spot zoning, because of what's already consistent out there. Also, and as I said, for uses, specifically in that agricultural district, some of the uses that are allowed in that are not allowed in residential are outdoor sales, horse training facilities, nursing homes, long-term care, RV parks and campgrounds, artisan workshops, and research and laboratory offices would all be allowed as permitted by right uses in that agricultural district as opposed to the residential general district. The other idea is that the intent of that agricultural district is for supporting uses associated with agricultural activities, whereas in the residential district, that's intended for, while it's intended for moderate density for residential neighborhoods, that's the first sign where we see where the district also includes a range of dwelling types and neighborhood settings with other civic and recreational uses. So the intent of that RG district, it's the lowest zoning district, that we could start to see the intent of having civic uses. The other item is from a consistency standpoint, other schools that are in the area in Bluffton, the majority of them have that residential general zoning designation to them.
Thank you.
Yes.
And there are no development rights for this property currently, right? I mean, when we annex it in, we'll have to assign the rights for ball fields or schools or whatever.
It's by right. So this is not, there's no development agreement. So it's not in a PUD. So it's through our straight zoning. So that residential general zoning classification, the uses that are currently listed in our Unified Development Ordinance, those are the uses that could potentially be allowed on that property. It's no different from any other residential general property.
So the existing property is not a part of the Buckwalter PUD?
No, sir.
Oh.
No. So again, when you look at this map, you see the mint green, that's PUDs. The yellow is residential general. And then that dark green is preserve. So
that dark green, wasn't that a part of the Buckwalter?
No, that was part of the Kent Estates.
Oh, that's the other.
But was extinguished and then went to preserve. And schools are not allowed in the preserve district.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Certainly.
So the way we've been able to navigate the residential question in the past was because everybody was coming through for, they were part of a development agreement. So in reality, you know, obviously we want to take housing off if we can. What mechanism would allow us to do that?
Take housing off?
In other words, you assign it a particular zoning standard, how many houses could they have if they wanted to do that and not build a school?
Our big thing is we don't want them to say, okay, we don't need ball fields or school anymore and sell it off, and then we have another 500 homes built there. If you understand where we're just looking for wording to prevent. I know that's not what y'all are trying to do, but that's what we're trying to protect ourselves from.
Go ahead.
Councilman Wood, if I may, one of the issues that you face with a rezoning request like this is if you try to condition the rezoning upon the, you know, a promise from the landowner to do a certain act, like say the conveyance of development rights or a deed restriction, unfortunately you you can come across what's called unconstitutional contract zoning. So you can't condition a legislative act on the promise that they're going to do something in the future for you. Obviously, in a case like this, it's a little bit different because it's a reverse contract where they're taking away rights in order to get a less dense use. But ultimately, that site, as I understand it, could accommodate up to 95 units under the RG designation. Because this is only an intent to annex, we can look into it and maybe communicate with the school district about potential options. But the reality is, because of the way where it's located, because of the way the growth framework map has that area, you're against some constitutional and statutory limitations on what sort of wiggle room you have there.
Let me ask the question a different way.
Yes, sir.
So this is an intent. This is not a negotiation. I get that. If we decided to go forward as a body, before we jumped in with both feet and they would know this clearly in the open setting, could we not create a development agreement arrangement with them on this site?
Oh, well, we can look into that. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head whether the acreage is sufficient, even under the Development Agreement Act, to support a development agreement at 22 acres. And it'd have to have a variety of uses that would be supported there. And what you would likely have is just trying to think through it, a number of potential concerns. But that's one that we can look into and discuss with the school district. I would imagine so that they could have a uniformity of development out there and not have to develop one site a little bit differently from the others, especially if they're considering to, potentially change the configuration of that development, that there may be some pushback from the school district on a development agreement on that particular site. But we can certainly talk with them about that if you would like for us to.
I think this body, I would hope everybody would agree, entertains that question. You get back to us on that. The school district, I know it's a different situation, but on the tract of land that we've negotiated an MOU with them, we did negotiate with them. I know that they had what they wanted. They wanted to get something, but we also wanted to remove something. So I guess what we're asking council is find us an avenue to give each of us what we want. They want to build a school, okay? We're all for that, but we want to make sure that we get what we want. We don't want them coming back for some reason and putting housing there, if we can avoid that.
Absolutely. And the reason that we were able to do that on the other site was because it's the development agreement, which is the exception to the contract zoning prohibition. That's the one time you can say we'll condition zoning upon you doing something for us and vice versa. So, yes, sir, Councilman Wood, we can certainly work with staff and the folks over at the school district.
And the difference here is because we haven't, Mayor, if I could, difference here is because this is a request for annexation, we're not able to put those contingencies on it based off of what the intent is for right now. I think that's something that we could take up and have a discussion and push that back on negotiation once a decision is made.
Okay, Fred, or were you waiting on an answer? No.
I'm confused because if we agree to the annexation request with the zoning that they're requesting, doesn't that tie our hands up?
And at this point, I understand that this is just the intent to annex. So you would have the annexation petition, the actual first reading and second reading later, in May and June. This is just to show them the school district will consider the annexation, but y'all got to it's basically the precursor to them spending the money on the engineers and everybody else to put the documents together. If y'all had no desire to annex this property under any circumstances, you could say so now, and they wouldn't have to move forward.
If I may, so And that's why we have the negotiating committee. So if you feel that there needs to be some question, as opposed to this body negotiating at the dais right now, you can still accept the annexation request, the intent to annex, and then refer it to the negotiating committee, and then give direction to the negotiating committee, and that gives them an opportunity to review what your concerns are, flush out any issues, and then determine if it is if it's going into an existing PUD that's adjacent, if it stays with that residential general, or if there's any additional items that we can figure out that may meet the needs of what you're looking for, which we hear loud and clear, is the no residential, the potential
Personally,
for
I
residential.
don't like the idea of sending it to a negotiating committee because I don't think we're that far off. Nobody's against the annexation for the purpose listed. You know what I mean? So if we could just figure a way to, somehow another illegal way to document that what the intent is or something, I thought we would move forward. What do y'all think? I don't know. Getting late.
Well, I have a question back to council again. So, I mean, this is an an intent. No deals have been made, no deals have been offered. This gives you an opportunity before any potential first reading to come back to council and the town manager and answer our question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It comes back to us 2 more times.
I know, but what I'm getting at, there's nothing happening here tonight.
Not at all.
Nothing at all. We're just gonna give the right to intent, and then all of this can be hammered out in between the first and second reading.
I agree. Okay. Is there a motion somewhere?
Yes, sir.
Any more questions or conversations from council? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mayor. I move to accept the Beaufort County School District's 100% annexation petitions to annex certain real properties contiguous to the town of Bluffton's corporate boundaries, consisting of a total 24.1 acres, more or less, and bearing Beaufort County tax map numbers R600 029 000 011A quadruple 0 and R600 029 000 0034 and quadruple 0.
Is there a second?
So, second.
Any discussion?
Dan didn't say enough zeros.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
Okay, and as I stated earlier, we do have the second motion is to either refer or forego referral to the negotiating committee.
Well, I'll throw it out there and see what happens. I move to forego referral of Beaufort County School District's 100% annexation petition to the Town of Bluffton Negotiating Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay. What'd you say, Bridge?
Aye.
You got an aye?
I say aye. I second.
So that's 3-2. To send it to the negotiating committee.
Forego.
Forgo.
Forgo.
Forgo, shoot. I was wondering what we were doing there. I didn't want it to go anyway.
That's right, you didn't.
I missed that.
But you still voted the way you wanted to.
We did.
You don't want to, you don't.
For clarity, it's not going to negotiate.
Not going there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Same outcome. I was just, no. So are we straight on that, Marcia? Up next, we have consideration of resolution to approve amendments to the Town of Bluffton Southern Low Country Stormwater Design Manual. And it's Mr. Kevin again,
Yeah, you still got me.
along with some help.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We're here this evening for approval of a resolution to amend various sections of our Soloco design manual. Again, this is a resolution, so this is a technical document that staff uses. This is not an ordinance. This is meant for us to be able to use as individuals are coming through in order to understand what they need to do as they're designing sites as it deals with the stormwater. So the manual itself standardizes how the stormwater elements are designed, submitted, reviewed, approved, and inspected. So we have the four main topics. Excuse me. Yep. Yep. To improve water quality through the runoff reduction to the maximum extent practical, prevent downstream bank and channel erosion, reduce downstream overflow flooding, safely pass or reduce the runoff from extreme storm events. So what we are proposing to do, and I'm keeping this very high level, in your staff report, there was a document that was 91 pages of proposed changes. A majority of that was Scrivener errors, and that's the item that we have here, is that we have multiple housekeeping edits that do not change the regulatory requirements. We're going to provide clarifications on the implementation of these practices, enhance the enforcement capabilities. And if you remember, these were some of the items that had previously we've discussed in multiple meetings where we can then go back to some of the communities pre-MS4, so pre-enforcement of our rules and regulations. That way we can work with them to inspect and enforce the maintenance of these storm ponds. The biggest ones that we've had the concerns with was the Hampton Hall, Hampton Lake, and the farm, if you remember that. We're also promoting the use of better site design principles, and this is through credits towards meeting the stormwater retention volume requirements. And what this does is it assists with if someone's making to the greatest extent practical and on a case-by-case basis, there's some type of issues where they cannot meet the full requirements of the stormwater requirements, they can then, in essence, get credits. They would pay for it in order to be able to meet the extent practical, and then that money would go to the town to be used towards future stormwater improvement projects. And then let's see, the housekeeping items, which I had just discussed a second ago. So go through this. These are, I just summarized all of those items there. Just wanted to provide a history standpoint, just to show how many times we've had this out in the public, how many touches it's been on there, both with staff and consultant, the Soloco Technical Committee. We brought this out for public comments. The town came in front of you in October of last year. We brought this to the Planning Commission in order for them to provide comments on this. The WAPAC committee, they were able to provide a recommendation to you. Then we had an additional workshop in January of this year, and then now we are bringing this before you as the resolution. And then the intent is that if this is approved, that it would be proposed to start implementation on April 1st of this year. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. If not, I do have a suggested motion for you on the screen.
Discussion from council, questions? Ms. Burton?
No question.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve a resolution to amend the Town of Bluffton's Southern Low Country Stormwater Design Manual as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you very much.
We'll take a 5-minute recess, please. Thank you.
Sorry.
I thought it was just.
Y'all running.
Our recess is over. We're back in session. Up next, let's see. That was number 2 we just did, right?
Yes.
Up next, we have approval to authorize a construction contract with Hilton Head Landscapes LLC for site development construction of Buckwalter Place Park. Physical impact of $648,848.30. Ms. Kim Jones.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to run quickly through just a site locator map and project background for the general public. If you're not familiar with what was previously known as the Evacor Park, this is Buckwalter Place Park project highlighted in the yellow box. This will be the project location for the next park that we will be making improvements to. This is located adjacent to the Veterans Memorial Park and the playground that currently exists at the site. Obviously, a much larger footprint. Quick background, the conceptual master plan was presented and approved by council back in January of last year, January of 24. The park development plan was approved in October of last year, 24, with a council workshop and direction provided that we prioritize improving safety and comfort by including enhanced lighting, a raised crosswalk, as well as more shading and cooling elements in phase 1 construction. Additionally, if you have been out to the Buckwalter site, you will see that there have been general park improvements made already, including planting some trees, constructing park identification signs, as well as completing the construction documents for the phased hardscape improvements, first phase of which I'm bringing forward to you this evening for approval. The conceptual master plan that you approved in January of last year shows schematically, I clearly know that you can't read the tiny legend on this, but what you can see is the improvements of pavilions, additional shade trees, entranceways, as well as expanding the restroom and have amphitheater seating. So specifically, what we're focusing on in fiscal year 25 is phase 1 safety, highlighted in red along the construction drawing inset map that you have. Specifically, phase 1 scope includes the following work to be completed and constructed by Hilton Head Landscapes LLC. Sidewalk connectivity, again, safety. We don't have sidewalks out there. We need them. Making a feature entranceway on the northwest corner. We will be installing for stormwater bioretention, rehabilitation, additional lighting, recognizing this will be used for public events. We clearly need additional lighting. We will expand the service yard and as well include, again, safety features, a raised crosswalk in between the 2 park areas where I highlighted we had the Veterans Park and Playground over to this larger venue. Again, enhanced shade trees cover and ground cover. Please notice I did skip over 5 and 6, bathroom expansion and new HVAC system. Those are the primary components of this construction contract and expanding that restroom as well as installing new HVAC. We are proposing with this particular contract, this is an aggressive construction schedule, that it would be completed by the end of May of 25. This is working in concert with Lindy and her team because of events that are planned out there already for the summer. Notice in 26, this will be a multi-phase project, so multiple fiscal years. We had proposed originally from the construction documents, we're moving it to 26 and 27, and council's direction was if there is funding available, compress that schedule, and so you'll see that as part of the budget moving forward so that we don't have over 3 years. So the request before you this evening is that you authorize the town manager to execute this contract with Hilton Head Landscape LLC for a sum of $589,862.30 to complete construction of the Buckwalter Place Park improvements, that scope I just previously highlighted. Additionally, we're requesting a 10% contingency allowance of $58,986 in case there are any unforeseen circumstances out there that may affect that construction quote. So our total fiscal impact for this year, 2025, is $648,848.30 and is within the approved fiscal year 2025 budget. If council decides to approve this contract and authorize the town manager to enter into it, our next steps will, of course, be to go ahead and move forward with contract signatures and initiating the pre-construction meeting. The pre-construction meeting following that will be issued at the notice to proceed, notice to proceed will be issued at the pre-construction meeting, and we plan to commence the project. That doesn't make sense. That should probably be a 3 instead of a 5. Yeah, anyway. I looked over this with Constance, I don't know how many times, and neither one of us caught that. My extreme apologies on that. That makes a lot more sense because you really can't build a park in a day. So the notice to proceed will be issued at the pre-con, and we are planning to begin construction before the end of this month, and then again, complete by the end of May to accommodate scheduled events further into the summer. With that clarification on the initiation, any questions or discussion?
Any questions for you, Ms. Frazier?
Yeah, for the restroom expansion, what are we going to be expanding it from currently?
About doubling the footprint, more than doubling the footprint of the current bathrooms.
I know we know that, just to give like clarity for those who may not have used the park, like we currently have like one stall or.
There's one stall now, you're tripling it basically. 2 additional toilets, 2 additional urinals, and 2 additional sinks, so we're about tripling the size. Facility.
Thank you.
Good, sir.
Yes. Parking. I noticed the other day that we lost some parking to the new construction next to the police department. So how are we going to accommodate parking for this park when we lost some parking already?
So the parking next to the police department technically was not parking. It was a lot that was made for development.
Same thing, we used to park there.
It was. Once the project's done that Chris is overseeing over there with economic development, there will be parking back in that space. And well, not where the building is, but around it, we'll have parking for that facility. Okay. So there'll be some parking reconstructed once that facility is done.
Okay, but when we had events at that park, that was one of the places that we were able to park to enjoy the event.
And there will be the parking at that building will be available to park in for events.
Like the park behind Evercore, right?
Well, there is also parking behind there.
Was there not, trying to remember the footprints, where the police department is and where the new buildings are going. I thought there was future additional parking behind.
But that's related to the economic development project, so that will be parking for the economic development project back there, where we're getting our property back on the corner, which is the property that Councilman Hamilton's talking about. There will be parking all around that building that will be public parking that can be used for events. It's not going to be as much as there was there before because there'll be a building footprint in the middle of it, but there'll still be parking spaces there that will be available for use during events.
Council, we need to look at that. We lost some parking, and we need to figure out how to.
So at Buckwalter, the only place that we own that we could put more parking would be to take away park space that we're looking to renovate right now. Because we have on-street parking along the road that runs in between Evercore, but the rest of that, the town, it's all privately owned. And it's planned to be development-wide parking. So everything in there is open to any use for anybody who's using anything within that service area. So if you're going to DRCI or you're going to TCL, you can use parking anywhere within within Buckwalter Commons. To build additional parking right now, the property we own, once the economic development is done, we won't have any additional property in there to develop. So if we wanted to create additional public parking, we would have to remove some green space that we have to do so. But we can look into it and see if there's any additional options, but right now, that's probably the direction we would have to take to gain additional parking.
And I know for most, to that point, I know for most events that occurred out there, a lot of times the event host would deter people from parking in the lot right by the PD and encourage people to park behind Evacor, because that's where the bulk of parking spaces were. So I don't know what's the count on how many spaces are back there. But I think it's a substantial amount of parking there.
And we can certainly pull that together. When Buckwalter Place was developed, remember this was a private park before the town acquired it for a public park. So yes, like Steve, the town manager, mentioned, the parking is all for the entire development. So you may see some signs that say retail parking with a time limit, but it can't be designated for a specific use. But we can certainly, as it gets used more and we use more events, look at the parking and get you those numbers. But it does meet the required numbers. It meets what was required for parking for a park. If that's helpful. Like I said, I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, but I can get them to you.
Anything, Ms. Burden?
Anything else for parking?
Okay. We have a suggested motion. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make it. I move to approve authorizing the town manager to enter into a contract with Hilton Head Landscapes for site development, construction of Buckwalter Place Park in the amount of $648,848.30, which includes a 10% contingency.
Is there a second?
So moved.
Is there any conversation? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you, Kim.
Good job, Kim.
Up next, we got consideration of accommodation tax advisory committee funding recommendations for quarter ending December 30th, 2024. Mr. Chris Forrester.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So first, we will have two items that are going to vote on tonight. One is the recommendation for funding for this quarter, and the second is some amendments to the application guidelines that have come forward from the committee. So first, we had three applications, two of which were withdrawn prior to the meeting. So the committee heard one application is the Bluffton Rotary for their Mayfest weekend. The current balance of the state aid tax funds is approximately $706,000. This is a look at the scoring for the event. Of course, we always provide you what the funding recommendation base is on the scoring, and then what the recommended amount from the committee is. And again, this was the only application heard for this quarter. The $24,000 request is for the Mayfest weekend. This is a breakdown of what the intended use is. $15,000 for advertising, $3,000 for the facilities, public facilities of $595, municipal and county services $2,925, and the tourist transportation $2,400, a total of $24,000. Any questions?
Questions from council?
Yeah, I want to tell Mr. Wood that they don't need to advertise anymore. Mayfest is already advertised.
I have a question.
Yes.
And it's a curiosity question. It's not a critique by any stretch of the imagination. I noticed in the minutes that the vice chair made a proposal, which went by, I guess, what the scoring sheet was proposing. And based on that, that was voted down, then came back to the second proposal or, okay, whatever. Came back to the second one and then made the full amount, which is fine, but I guess my question is, if you have a scoring sheet, but you go beyond the scoring sheet, I mean, that's allowed in the
Yes, the scoring is just as a guide.
guide,
Yep.
right?
And I think primarily that is, in situations where we're limited on the funding available, it's a more equitable way to divvy out funds for eligible projects. I do not know the context of the motions and what happened at the meeting, but I believe the chair and vice chair are here if you'd like to address them directly.
Okay, and then may I ask one more question of council?
Yes.
I'm a Rotarian. Do I need to recuse myself?
Yes.
Yes. Good enough?
No. You got him, Marcia? Dan's recusing himself. Okay, any more, anything else from council? Any questions? Should we make the motion?
Not yet, no.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I make the motion to grant the Rotary Club of Bluffton $24,000 in support of the 2025 Mayfest weekend in Bluffton project as presented in the staff report breakdown for advertising, promotion of tourism, and other tourism-related expenses.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's 4 with 1 recusal.
Okay, the second item is the recommendation to amend the application guidelines. ATAC is recommending to add language to the guidelines. This is to better clarify funding eligibility for certain operational costs for cultural and civic facilities. A little background, there's a little conflicting guidance that's out there around this, but as a general rule, and then the SCDR put out a revenue ruling, I think it was from 1998 actually, but basically said as a general rule, no salaries should be funded unless they can show that the employee's position is necessary to attract or provide for tourists. And then Turk later on came out with some additional guidance, which said reimbursements of salaries is not a permitted use for ATAX funds under the subsection. So to provide further clarification around the guidance, the committee recommended 2 adjustments. The first was to add personnel expenses, including salaries and wages, as ineligible for tourism-related expenditures. And the second one is to cap the reimbursable operational expenditures to no more than 25% of annual costs, or at the documented annual percentage of tourist attendance, whichever is less, so the less of the two. And there is a cap recommended of 50,000. So those are the 2 adjustments to the application policies. And to give you guidance, there is currently under state law, you're allowed to provide operational support for civic facilities, and our ordinance does not restrict it at all. But these guidance will provide a policy in which that the committee can use to guide in recommendations to council.
Questions for Chris, Bridget?
No questions. I do like the direction of adding in language like this, only because our area is, saturated with nonprofits, and I like the direction that we've been going in terms of how we allocate these funds in a way that everyone who's hosted events and other things have been able to get it. And my concern, if we were to not include the language of removing personal expenses and other things, is that it would take away from the nonprofits currently who do rely on that to fund their events or be able to provide the needs for things that are drawing that tourism here. So I think this, does allow that element of fairness across the board, and not allow it to become something where organizations are relying on ATAC to fund their operational expenses, and if, that's the case, and that means it's not necessarily the reality of sustainability for the organization, like, we can't be the dependent factor for that.
Yeah, my only question is the $50,000 maximum, is that a reasonable number? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that either.
That'd be subjective.
I think it's a good place to start and see how it works. We could always change,
Yeah, amen.
if we see where that's not working or where it doesn't seem to be fair to somebody, then we can, all it takes is a meeting or two, we can change our rules.
And there's exception to all rules too.
Right. Anything from you, Ms. Burton?
No questions.
Fred?
I'd like for the chair to come up and urge.
And vice chair? Come on.
Yeah. That's the old chair back there.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Hi, how you doing? Well, you made a statement back there that I think needs a little bit more elaborations. Like you said, there should be exceptions to all rules.
Well, my opinion is that there are exceptions to all rules. We've been discussing this for, it seems like a year of trying to get this going, and there isn't a right number. So $50,000 just seemed to be not excessive, but not too little. So that's why we came up with the 50,000. There's so many different things that can happen, and there's so many, our town is growing exponentially, and we have all these new nonprofits that are coming in, and everybody's going to look for money. So we're just trying to make it that we'll be able to take care of everybody and not just one or two.
What we try to do, council and staff, thank you. What we try to do was look at a known quantity of a current operation, the Hayward House prior, and get an annual budget for theirs. We applied the 25%. They didn't exceed the 50, but we thought the 50 would be able to accommodate most anybody who would come before us. The other language that you see in there, other than the 25%, we also can apply an annual percentage of tourist attendance to be able to adjust that number moving forward as a kind of a, using it as an exception. If someone's wanting more, we can say, but your tourism is here. Or if they were asking for less, certainly a way to put that in there and say, you don't really bring in tourism. So we have both of those in there as a way to limit the ask from ATAX to be able to support their operations. That makes sense.
Yes, sir.
And we could, council could still override that if we want to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a guideline, right?
Correct.
That's right. The guidelines help provide
them.
ATAC with the committee with their, what they're supposed to provide.
But if they say something, we still have the authority to give less or more or whatever. So,
Correct.
yeah, it's just more guidelines for you guys, just general practice. So, any more questions?
I have a question for Chris. With that, and thank you to the chair and vice chair, that clarification. So with the nominal amount they've included in this, would this be in addition to funds that organization would come and ask for marketing dollars, for anything to support their events? Or would their total cost or ask of us for the year not be able to exceed that amount.
So event-specific related requests are separate. This would just be kind of the annual request for any operating expense. So events would be separate, and any request for capital improvements would be a separate item.
So that would be my only concern there, is that it still leaves the potential for a significant amount of funding that could be appropriated, directed to one entity or any one organization that would diminish the amount of acts that could come from our other current, like, event-related asks, whether it's the, the Jewish event that happens during Christmas or any other cultural events that happen. I'd be concerned about that. Just my thought.
Well, yeah. Anything else from council? I'm thinking that this guideline will learn from it, to see what, if I feel like if we start seeing things pop up that aren't working with our guidelines, that we could do the same thing. Right now, we don't really have a good guideline, and this would put a little more control on the amount of money asked for certain things. Yes, Sam?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify for our conversations. I know that you were talking about operational expenses.
If a facility was getting the money, that would be inclusive of the regular advertising and operations. If they're having an event, then we would expect them to come and apply for the actual event. Trying to think of a great example, but it fails me. But if you were as a
Sam, you can use Hayward House. So if Hayward House comes in and asks for it, and then they had their event, a tour of homes or something, that would be two different things. They would
different things,
so their operation than their event.
just so that our intent, if you're having the Hayward House and they're advertising as a museum all the time, they're limited to that. But if they have a special event outside of it, that would be separate. But we wouldn't take just a plain advertising expense and roll it out of the operation, because we would consider that part of the operational expense of the facility. Does that make sense?
Right. And that's how I interpreted it and listening to what was conveyed. I was just expressing my concern in the sense of being just very cautious of how we do that, and considering that our, sentiment as a council previously was that we don't want to create dependency for certain organizations and running their organization just purely off of ATAC for fear that it would deplete funds going to others. So if we're gonna be on that route, I also don't want to backtrack on that, because we do have a lot of civic and cultural facilities that could take advantage of that. And I guess as long as we have some type of guideline that ensures fairness, that this doesn't take precedence, I guess makes sense.
Thank you. That was my intention, to make sure it was clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion to amend the accommodations tax application guidelines for the following: adding personnel expenses to include salaries and wages as ineligible tourism-related expenditures to the notes and guidelines section of the town of Bluffton's accommodation tax application, capping operational expenditures related to cultural and civic facilities to no more than 25% annually or at the documented annual percentage of tourist attendance, whichever is less, with the maximum annual amount not to exceed $50,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Ms. Marshall. Okay. Moving on to consent agenda. Is there anything the council would like to remove from
Yes.
items?
Yes, item 5, please.
Item 5, Mr. Hamilton would remove item 5. Okay, you got that, Marcia? So should we go ahead and approve the rest of it? And then just approve 5 afterwards? How do you want to do that, Richardson?
I think that's the way we've traditionally done it.
I think so. Okay, so is somebody make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item number 5?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of consent agenda item number 5.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Now, number 5, who we got up here?
Okay. I have a very brief presentation. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you may have, but what this item relates to is the easement over property located at 1095 May River Road. So that's our affordable housing project that we're working on with Workforce State of Mind LLC. And this is an easement for Dominion so that they can serve power and utilities to the 12 homes that are going to be built there, hopefully very soon. So again, quick background, we did the resolution to acquire the property specifically for affordable housing. Then we entered into a master agreement with Workforce State of Mind, LLC, back in 2022, and that's for 12 single-family homes. As part of the overall development approval that we have been working through the last year, Dominion Energy has requested that the town grant a utility easement for, again, that purpose of getting power to those homes. This, I know it's hard to see, but essentially that pink line there shows where the easement will be, essentially running along that, that driveway, so to speak, so that access to those individual homes and those lots. Once it is constructed, they will develop as-built drawings that demonstrate that and show that. And you see it kind of comes from, well, you can't see my mouse here, from the other side of May River Road. May River Road is to the bottom of that slide. So the next steps are we actually have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for next Friday, March 14th. After that, they're going to go on site. Once that meeting and inspection has been done, they will be able to move forward with site clearing and putting up silt fencing and begin construction. They have a very detailed schedule moving forward, but they expect to begin late May with vertical construction through August of 2026. So we are close, we're getting closer.
So you're saying the silk fencing is in March, but nothing happened until late May?
That's when vertical construction is expected to begin. Vertical construction,
What about the other infrastructure?
Everything will start next week.
Next week?
Next
Good. I needed that to be.
We're hopeful. Next week.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So weather permitting and everything else aligned, they're ready to move forward.
Thank you, ma'am.
So now you need to make a motion to approve item 5.
And I will say this would be an ordinance, so there will be another reading if this moves forward.
I need to make it?
Yeah. You called it, sir.
I make a motion to approve an order to ratification of an easement over certain real property owned by the town of Bluffton identified as Beaufort County Tax Map Number R610-0390004980000 in favor of Dominion Energy South Carolina Incorporated to provide service to 1095 May River Road.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Oh, that is it for right now. We need to move into executive session if somebody make a motion.
Second.
We are in executive session.
I have one, I don't.
You all ready? Yes. Okay. Is there a motion?
Yes. I move to approve a resolution in support of allocating a portion of the town of Bluffton's water and wastewater capacity credits for the Alljoy Sewer Expansion Project to promote public health and environmental safety in the community.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's unanimous.
Move that we adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
Second.
We are adjourned.